Representative C. Smith, you're recognized in debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill is about making it harder for certain people to vote. And by harder, we're also disenfranchising. By making it harder, we're also disenfranchising people from voting. You ask, how is it that we're making this harder? Well, first of all, I just want to point out on the issue of the drop boxes, because this has come up several times. Why haven't we asked the supervisors of elections to man or supervise every single post office box across their county? Why haven't we asked them to do that? Every mailbox is a drop box. Every single one. There's no difference. But there is a difference to the voter if they're chasing the deadline to get their ballot cast. This has happened to all of us. We all have been in this situation. I'm not putting my vote by mail ballot in the mail right now, because if I send it in now, it's not going to make it by election day and it won't count. I have to go to a drop box. Okay? So if they have to go to a drop box, now we're putting on all of these restrictions that can possibly lead to disenfranchisement. And it will lead to disenfranchisement for many voters. We're throwing up more roadblocks. We're telling them they now have to go to the downtown supervisor of elections office if it's open 24 hours. I say if because, yeah, sure, they can hire someone to watch and surveil the drop box for 24 hours, but they have to hire that person. And this bill is an unfunded mandate. And we've not given them the resources to hire that additional person. We're going to make them do it during regular hours. Make them bring their ID. Make them sign the attestation. Make them designate the person in advance. Make them do this. Make them do that. Make them give up. That's what we're doing here. And I think it's sickening. And for what? Why are we doing this? Well, the supporters of the bill continue repeating we had the smoothest election in the country. We found 0 cases of voter fraud. So what's the problem that we're trying to fix? Oh, here's the problem. Florida Democrats cast 600,000 more vote-by-mail ballots in Florida. What about the election fraud that corrupted the results of the Florida Senate races that have been in the news? What about that election fraud? Now, I know there's been some questions about the amendment that I brought forward. The sponsor declared it too vague, even though it's copy and pasted nearly verbatim from other sections of Florida statute that crack down on fake athletes in boxing competitions. The reality is that, yes, Frank Artillis and Mr. Rodriguez were indicted. They were indicted. They were not indicted for an election fraud scheme. The scheme is legal under Florida law, which we don't address in this bill. We just completely ignore it because it makes people feel uncomfortable. We know why it makes them feel uncomfortable, because who knows how large a web has been cast over Florida Republicans in this scheme. Artilles and Rodriguez, they were charged with 4 third-degree felony charges related to the scheme. That includes conspiracy to make or accept campaign contributions in excess of legal limits, the $50,000 bribe, accepting and making those excess campaign contributions, false swearing in connection to an election, and aiding in and eventually submitting false voter information. But the scheme itself, the only known case of election fraud in Florida, is actually still legal. And I do want to talk about the process. This bill is a case study in democracy in the dark. Strike all amendments at 1:33 a.m. The sponsor repeatedly said yesterday, well, if you read the strike all, if you read the strike all, if you read the strike all. Who had time to read the strike all? It was filed at 2 o'clock in the morning. No one. All rushed. Yesterday I couldn't even debate on the strike all because there was no more time, no more questions. Members, this is a bad bill. Vote it down. Thank you.